Hey, I'm Joe Schwartz. I'm publisher of Solar Pro and Home Power, and with Kyle Bolger from Blue Planet Energy, and we're just going to run you through an upgrade of a lead-acid battery system to a lithium-ion battery bank. We're up at my off-grid property that's outside of Ashland, Oregon, in Southern Oregon right now. So, hey Kyle, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, man, great to be here.
Great. So we're just going to run through this through the system backwards. Just because we can. This system was installed in 2005, so it's 12 years old, so it has really kind of tried and true equipment at this point in time. It's just hummed along without any issues for 12 years. So we have a AC main distribution panel that goes out to loads around the property.
I like that you have a traditional meter on
there
to see how many kilowatt hours you're using.
Yeah, cumulative meter.
I highly recommend that for off-grid customers.
Yeah, and this was before we had really more apps and whatnot, or software to kind of track that as easily. So,
but it's relatable, right? If people read their meter before, like, oh, here's the meter too. It's the same. Yeah. I just my own utility company now.
Yeah,
you can still charge your friends for using too much energy.
Yeah, you got it. And then this is a Outback power panel, AC side, DC side. The inverters are VFX 3648s, so they're 3600 watts each, 48 volts nominal on the DC side, and it's 120 240 volt output. And there's an auto former that balances the output as well.
Right, so just to be clear, since we're going for it, right, this 120 volt output as it's on its own.
Correct.
And this one also is 120 volt output, so they're stacked in a way that makes a 240 volt sine wave.
You got it.
But the auto former, which is great to have, means that if one of these went out, or if you just wanted to conserve energy, this 120 could go through this magic little box in here.
Correct.
And it goes from 120 to 240, so you have regular 240
You
output.
got it, yep. And we've actually utilized that this summer when we had an inverter in for the software upgrade to run our well pump. So we were able to run one inverter, the auto former, and our 240 volt Grundfos well pump.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yeah, it was good redundancy to have for sure.
Right, so redundancy for maintenance, and then redundancy for efficiency.
Yep.
And even some redundancy for charging the batteries, right?
Sure.
Because these are not just inverters, but they're also inverter chargers.
Battery chargers as well.
So the more inverters you have, the faster you can charge the battery bank. So even if you don't need it for your power output, you might want it to charge the batteries faster from a generator or some other carbon-based fuel source.
Which we try to minimize for sure. We were actually, we had no generator up here for the first probably 11 years of the system running up here, and just this past year, because of some changes in the loads, we installed a 14 kilowatt propane-fired Kohler generator that we use as little as possible. So, and then on the DC side,
I'll switch sides with you.
Yeah, awesome. We have PV inputs, and so for solar, we have 2 pole mounts that we installed in 2005, covered in Home Power magazine. There was actually a step-by-step pair of articles on that installation, and so those are, let's see, so they're 175 watt Sharp modules.
Oh wow!
And
nice.
so, right. So it's 1,050 watts on each pole mount, so 2,100 watts total.
Okay.
They're wired 3 in series, so 72 volts nominal.
Yep.
And then we have 2 Outback charge controllers, and so they optimize the output of the solar array. They regulate battery charging, the charge controllers, and then they also down convert the 72 volt nominal voltage of the array down to 48 volts nominal to charge the batteries. Right. So we have 2,100 watts of 12-year-old Sharp modules on one controller, and then the second controller we have 4 375 watt SunPower modules that we installed just this last summer, and those are on the roof of this building.
Okay. Right.
And those SunPower modules are 96 cells, and so they're higher open circuit voltage and maximum power voltage, and so we just have 2 of those modules in series running down to a separate charge controller.
Oh, gotcha.
So they're both controlled independently. And then just briefly, this is older equipment that we had that we ran for just a little while with some other sharp 165 watt modules on the roof that was AC coupled. And we've replaced those modules since up on the roof. And now it's DC coupled. Correct.
What does that mean, Joe? Can you tell us?
Yeah,
this is a very controversial discussion in the industry.
Yeah, and just briefly, this was a kind of some early experimentation that I did with AC coupling up here, and so it's a SB 700, so it's a pretty early Sunny Boy. It's actually
the earliest, I think. Yeah. For America,
serial number, it's 1, 2, 4, 1. So, and then we had a TriStar that ran to a diversion load.
Oh, I see.
And then a DC disconnect. And so, AC coupling at that point in time, a decade ago, was a little more kind of or about a decade ago, was a little bit more complicated than it is now. The equipment's really evolved, so that's sort of the easier path now in battery-based systems.
Okay.
So at this point in time, this equipment is decommissioned, and we're just using the SunPower modules up on the roof in a DC coupled mode. And then for batteries, it's a pretty small battery bank for a kind of a system of this size. But this is the second set of batteries that we've had that we run up here. We had the first set of Discover batteries. They're AGM type battery. We got almost 12 years out of that bank, which I think is sort of unheard of. It's certainly way past the warranty. We got really great service out of those batteries. This isn't a full-time residence, so those batteries spent a fair amount of time in float mode, which AGM batteries like. So I think that was really key to their longevity. And then we really designed the system to really not get into the batteries more than maybe 20% on a typical day or overnight.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you used about 20% per day.
Correct. And it's a 20 kilowatt hour battery.
About a 20 kilowatt hour battery bank. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But majority of the time they stayed in float, and by taking care of them that way, they lasted you 12 years.
Yes.
12 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, we got great longevity out of that bank. And then that battery, I can think kind of really well past its service life. Packed it in over the summer in sort of a dramatic fashion. We had a kind of a direct short in one of the batteries that led to kind of an unregulated charge situation. The batteries released their electrolyte, which they're designed to do. And so we replaced them with this battery bank here, which are Centennials. They're sort of just a value battery that I got the same day to get the system back up and running.
Right. And you'll be able to reuse these batteries.
Totally. Yep.
Do you have a plan for them already? You gonna sell them to a friend?
So our plan with the bats are we're gonna bring them. We have a studio in town down in Ashland.
Oh, okay.
And so we have a PV system down there. We just with some extra equipment we have, we're going to put a backup system down there. Yeah. So we're ready for Cascadia, the big earthquake.
Cascadia.
So this is really only the second battery bank. So we really, we rode one battery bank for the majority of the time that this system was running.
Right.
The arrays are outside. We have a DC wireway, an AC wireway that we use to just drop cabling in to integrate the different components.
That's great. I kind of want to just take the opportunity to talk about DC and AC coupling a little bit more.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
So this system is currently running as a DC coupled system, and it's really the traditional way that these battery systems have been run. So we've got PV coming in that's DC powered to a DC charge controller, and as Joe mentioned, it's higher voltage DC, but this steps it down to the nominal voltage of the battery bank. So PV is coupled to our battery on the DC side of the system, and then that DC comes out into our inverter to make AC power. Right, so the PV is what we're talking about when we say it's DC coupled. Where is the PV integrated in the system? In this case, it's on the DC side. But we have a unique situation here because Joe's got lots of time and energy to experiment, that we have an AC coupled system right next to it. Right? So even though physically it looks like it's on the same side, what's happening in this system is when it was working, is you've got the DC coming in to an inverter that's making AC power, and like you said, we've got this AC trough here. So that AC power is coming over to this side, on the AC side of the inverter, and then going through here to the DC side to get the batteries. So in other
Charge
words,
the batteries,
the
correct.
PV is now coupled on the AC side, right? Because the PV is now coming in from this side before it goes into charging the batteries.
Right. Or powering the loads directly.
Sure.
During the daytime
Sure.
hours if those loads are up.
Yeah, the primary benefit of that system is now you've got AC power running your loads, and you're only using that extra power to charge the batteries. But you're not having to, in a traditional DC system, go in theory to the batteries and then get to the loads. You can go straight from the PV array
Correct.
to the inverter to the loads.
Correct. And again, this
so-
was really, it's decommissioned that now, but
Sure.
it was really experimental for me at the time, and really it was pretty early AC coupled system. And at that time, it could be a really good design approach if you had long wire runs or something like that.
Oh,
The
sure.
PV array was far from the other the battery-based inverters and batteries. Since that time, we've had the introduction of higher voltage charge controllers. So
Sure.
charge controllers similar to this that would do the same job as that, but they operate at 600 volts nominal.
Right.
So you have higher voltage, lower current, smaller conductors between the array. And so actually, later this spring, we're going to be installing another array of 3.45 kilowatt sun power array on a new shop that we built.
Okay.
It's a 360 foot wire run.
Oh wow.
And so
Okay.
So what we're going to be doing with that, instead of AC coupling, which we definitely thought about as being one approach, but we were excited to work with some high voltage DC charge controllers, which I haven't worked with to this point in time. And so
What are you going to use?
so we're going to use
I'm curious.
So there are a few different models on the market, but we're going to be using one that's manufactured by Morningstar.
Yep. Okay. Great.
So it's 600 volt,
Okay.
63 amp is what it is. Has built-in disconnects on PV side, battery
Okay.
side.
So 63 amps being the output to the batteries.
Correct.
The maximum out. Okay. So you go up to 600 volts on the DC input for voltage of your PV array, but the maximum energy or power you're getting out is 63 amps to the
Correct.
battery. Okay, great. that puts it in perspective. So
Can I pause it for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I'm worried about those batteries out there being in the rain.
Shit.
Well, the cardboard's going to go away soon. I'm
Yeah.
not too worried about it.
We can tarp it. I was going to ask Dave.
Yeah, and he may have done it already. I saw him out there for a second, but I just wanted to
Sure. You did?
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's good.
Good job.
Good heads up.
Thanks, Jody.
Kyle, if you can step in this.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of a nerd in me wants to sort of equate the size of that charge controller to watts. So 63 amps, and we'll say nominal 48 volts. So it's about a 3,000 watt output charge controller. Would you say?
Yeah, I'd have to look. I think the rated output might be a little bit higher than that, because I know that, and I'd have to go look at those numbers, but I know that there'll be at rated output of that 3.45 kilowatt array, we'll have just a little bit of clipping, which is acceptable because it won't be kind of running up there
Yeah, it's not a standard test
very
conditions.
frequently, but yeah, so I'd have to get back to you in terms of that exact spec.
Okay.
So, or
Yeah.
you'll have to come back when it's installed.
Even better. Let's do that.
So
Cool.
our goal today,
Yeah.
we just wanted to give you the viewers an overview of the existing system,
Yeah.
and then we're going to be installing a new lithium-ion battery system manufactured by Blue Planet Energy that Kyle works with, and we're super excited about it. It's a new technology for us to kind of get our brains around in terms of system design and the way the battery functions, and so we'll be documenting that as we go on.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll get these
Now it's time to move some lead.
nice looking lead acid batteries still and repurpose them somewhere else, and we'll put our battery system in. Sounds great.
All right, let's get to work, man. Let's get lifting. Right?
Let's get lifty. I don't know if you want to keep videoing. Do you have all the tools you need here? I did bring a bunch of tools.
Yeah, I'll have stuff out here. So,
Okay.
that was
should we
awesome.
just
That was awesome.